For $28.5 million, you can own the largest private residence in Newport, Rhode Island. And with that price point comes high expectations, at least for me. That's a huge amount of money. And after reviewing the Zillow listing, I have to say, money can't buy you class. And it can't buy you taste either, because that was my feelings after reviewing these photos on Zillow. But before we get into that, hi, my name is Billy. On this channel, I love to talk about historic homes, the stories behind them, the people who used to live in them, and then also preservation, because without these things, we'll just be left with replicas like McMansions that are going to be low quality and nothing compared to how things were previously made. I'm going to read the Zillow blurb for you first to set the stage. Newport's largest privately held estate and one of the last great Gilded Age mansions still in private ownership. Set on nearly 80 acres between world-famous Bellevue Ave and the historic Cliff Walk, this extraordinary property offers both timeless grandeur and unmatched potential. With approximately 44,000 square feet of living space, Seaview ranks as Newport's third largest mansion in Newport, soaring 40-foot ceilings, sprawling ballrooms, and richly appointed galleries showcase museum-quality treasures, including Venetian frescoes dating to circa 1480. The home also contains 22 stained glass panels. Beyond the primary mansion, the property allows for subdivision opportunities for multiple luxury single-family estates within steps to the Cliff Walk. Now, what I think is really funny with this estate in particular is, obviously, we're talking Newport, we're talking old money, high society. And at this house, specifically, it has a history. It was pollen wood from Dark Shadows. It was filmed here back in the 70s. But also in the 70s, there was a XXX-rated adult movie about sadomasochism that was also filmed on site, and it caused such a pearl-grasping moment of shock for the locals that they actually went to the police to try to get the movie shut down. And the police were like, listen, we can't do anything. As long as they're not doing it out in the public in front of everybody, we can't control what goes on in somebody else's house. We'll get more into that story later, but I did watch the movie. I wanted to do some research to be able to give you a full scoop, because obviously I can't show a lot of the clips from that movie because a lot of things go on, but it's wild. It definitely is. Throughout this video, we're going to start off with showing the recent listing photos, and then from there, we're going to go back in time, and I'm going to show you the historic photos in comparison of the same rooms that I found. Now, on the outside, I have to admit, when you see this aerial view footage, this looks phenomenal. My only gripe, my only comment would be, you have this huge plot of land in a nice V, and you technically have a direct view over that tree line to the ocean and the cliff walk, but you don't have that oceanfront property. For $28.5 million, that's a lot of money. I would want to have a home that's like right there. Although, to play devil's advocate, I've been to Newport many times, and with my partner, we love walking on that cliff walk. It's busy. So I could see the appeal of not wanting to actually be right on top of that, since you always are going to have people essentially in your backyard walking around, as long as you could still, at least from the second floor, get that ocean view, because that's really the money shot. Now, for the outside of the estate, I do think it's impressive that it does look cohesive, since there was a previous property on site. The site Bradley chose was at Ruggles and Wetmore Ave in Newport. On that parcel already stood an older mansion, an 1885 Elizabethan revival home called Seaview, originally built for James P. Trinicon, that was ultimately fused into another home that was relocated from Washington, D.C. and dismantled there and brought up to Newport. So the end result, I do think, looks nice. In a nutshell, this mansion has 29 bedrooms, 18 bathrooms, 11 fireplaces, and it was built in 1925 and finished in 1926 for an estimated cost of $2 million. When we step inside, it's giving a little bit medieval castle vibes, and I do understand that rooms had been imported intact from France and installed at the initial house in Washington, D.C. 20 years earlier before being moved and reassembled in Newport. I will say, when you step inside and you see the stained glass windows, I think that's lovely. It looks beautiful. This style personally is not my cup of tea, but I can appreciate it. I could appreciate the woodwork, the stained glass, the slate. I don't, just personally, red brick style slate, that color drives me nuts. I'm not a fan of burgundy. I don't like red walls. I don't like red. Bleh. so I'm not a fan of the floor. But if it's original and historic, I can appreciate that. And obviously you want to keep and preserve that. Also, what the hell is wrong with the Zillow listing? Because you go from 1 through 9 is the exterior of the home, and then you just jump straight into, it looks like the main foyer, but they don't even show the doorways that you're walking through. For $28.5 million, there should be a little bit of storytelling done visually as you're going through the photos, so this way you can actually see where you're walking to give you an idea of the layout of the space. But I guess if you can afford this place, they just assume that you're gonna just take your private plane out and land it in the backyard, your private helicopter, and go for a walkthrough. Up next on photo 11, we have a long hallway. That ceiling is beautiful. I really like the detail that's on it. I think there's some damage up by that light that looks like a flower, but that work that's done, I'm not sure if it's plaster. I really enjoy that. And the woodwork, that also is beautiful. The doors at the end, that's nice. We have a very dramatic entryway. I think this is nice. So it looks like that hallway we were just looking at was further back. Why are we as the audience trying to even assume this layout of this house? It should be done in a way that makes it more clear, so you can understand really these rooms and the layout, essentially. And then photo 13, beautiful detail all around the top of the ceiling. That is stunning. I like the detail around the door. But then I'm just confused on why we have this beautiful doorway, which is a nice rigid shape, and then behind it we have an archway. And then we have the arch windows. It's just a lot of blending. It just, again, seems all over the place. And then we step into the ballroom, which looks stunning. I mean, that's beautiful. I love it. But to me, this ballroom doesn't say this would be in a medieval castle that you stepped inside to, or that you the front foyer that you walked into. Funny thing, from that adult movie, they filmed a little bit of a nude dancing scene right here, and I'm gonna insert some of those clips because I thought it was really funny. But I instantly was able to recognize the room because essentially the adult movie caused a lot of ruckus, so they couldn't film the full thing on site at the estate, but they were able to get some shooting done. And they had to kind of piece together from filming at this mansion as well as another mansion in Long Island. Photo 15. And then we go to this room. We have some arched dome windows on top. Now we're back in a little bit of the Gothic mansion vibe with a beautiful ceiling, photo 16, and with the woodwork. I mean, that floor, the herringbone, love it. The woodwork along the perimeter of the walls, beautiful. Ceiling, beautiful. Window, it looks like you could walk outwards. All right, now number 17, we're back into the Gothic mansion. 3 archways. It's like choose your destiny, choose your poison. This house stresses me out. It does. I mean, I can't afford it, so it doesn't really matter. But from my own opinion, if you want to listen and know, I could tell on the left archway, obviously, there's the grand staircase to go upstairs. That stair pattern that's on the outside of the banister, to me, it looks like there was another staircase that was there that somebody ripped out and they just left that behind. I don't understand. It doesn't look intentional to me from a design perspective at all. And also, you have this very elaborate, solid stone house, and then you have that little dinky cast iron railing. For such a grand home, I would have expected a more grand staircase, honestly. You look up, beautiful gilded ceilings. I appreciate those. The detail in these archways that separates this area from the hallway that's in the center. That's nice. Look at the floor. We have slate, and then we have tile, and we have different colors and textures and patterns, and it's stressing me out. And then number 21. From my understanding, it looks like when you walk through the front door of the home, this is the photo that should be arranged at the beginning so you can visually understand where the house begins. That wooden door is the front door. There's a little bit of a foyer that's going to be behind the gated glass doors. And those little dome arches that are inset on the walls, for me, I couldn't help but wonder at first, were there originally beautiful life-size statues there? I was also confused on why there was a grate behind it. If you have any ideas, please let me know, unless maybe it was just for ventilation at the time. When I look at the historic photos, I can see that there was initially knights that were in each of these little alcoves. I guess it goes with that medieval vibe that this part of the house looks like, though personally, I think some life-size statues there would have been fabulous, or even a fountain. And then 22, we go to the Sims 1, where $28.5 million. Why are you showing a crappy illustration of a subdivision? Maybe this will speak to a developer. Now we go to 25, and again, we have that real estate filter that they use where all of a sudden everything kind of looks like, is it made out of Play-Doh or is it AI? I feel like those light fixtures can't be original. I appreciate that there's a medallion there, but given the space and the grand size of these rooms, you need to have big, large fixtures to actually anchor that space. Otherwise, it just looks dinky in comparison. Floors, not a fan of. I'm not sure if they're original or not. I know it's wood, but it just stresses me out because we have these patterns going all different ways. Then we have brick, then we have domes, then we have grates on the windows, and then molding on top. Can you see what I mean about like the house is just all over the place? It's like they took elements from all different eras and inspiration from multiple things, and then they started to add some modern touches to it. Like again, we have the recessed lighting. Here's some two little dinky chandeliers, cast iron chandeliers with that yellow glass. It looks like that hasn't been cleaned in for ages. Oh, and then don't worry, baby, we're gonna balance it out with two little recessed lightings in the center. And then 26, this obviously to me looks like a more modern construction room. There's a sink in the room. Dude, I don't know if that's a mini fridge that's next to it, but there's a sink because I see the faucet. You're in a $28.5 million house. I don't want to be in bed and look at a sink. Look at there's trim on the wall on the left with the world's smallest photo hanging over the bed. And then there's no trim on the angle piece, but the molding just stops. And then those curtains, I recognize the infamous light fixtures I was just talking smack about. Imagine this is the other angle of that room that has the 5 arched windows. Here's the 3 arched doorways, but then for whatever reason, there's a wall going through one of these doorways. I'm not blown away with this house whatsoever. Then we're on 28. We see the fireplace is beautiful. Love that. There is the detail above it with the mirrors. That's interesting. I'm curious to see if I can find the historic photo of what originally was in the middle to have it be framed that way, but the detail's nice. The molding on the top is nice. I know for certain that the owners must have paid an interior designer at some point to do this space. Not only does this house architecturally mix a modge podge of everything, but from a design perspective, we have so many different patterns and prints. It doesn't go together. Page 29. You couldn't even touch up the paint on the white moldings on the bottom or put new bedding on the bed. Look at that. That thing looks like it smells of mothballs and that it probably has a ton of semen on it because it's all piled. It looks like old linens. Whoever is listing this house is lazy, and whoever staged this house is lazy. And then on 30, we have a modern, no, I stand corrected. We have a dated bathroom. This is the only bathroom they show of the entire estate. Not impressed. 31, beautiful fireplace. Love the detail there. More detail on the wall, the trim. And again, this is what I'm talking about from a design perspective with the interior. Yellow printed curtains. Half leather couch with half paisley fabric cushions. That rug, everything to me, it just clashes. You have the tile at the bottom of this fireplace, and then the wall panels and the curtains and the pattern on the couch and the floor, and these vases all have patterns on them. It's too much. There's only 34 photos that show this house, and 12 of them are exterior, and there's at least 3 of those images are duplicated throughout different parts of this listing. So now let's step back in time to understand how this home came to be. Edward lives here between 1925 to 1941, and he lives here with his wife, Julia. The couple used Seaview as their Newport summer cottage, but after Julia died in August of 1929, her funeral was held in the mansion's private chapel. Edison continued spending summers here until his death in 1935. After Bradley's death, the estate passed to their daughter, Julie Bradley Shipman, and she lived there with her husband, the Right Reverend Herbert Shipman, until 1941. They vacated the property after a dispute with the city, reportedly over non-payment of 3 years' worth of back taxes. Then, during World War II, the mansion was used by the U.S. Army as officers' quarters. Then, in 1949, the property sold for only $8,000. That's the equivalent to $108,899.50 today. That is insane for that land and for the size of the house. I mean, I'm not a fan of the house, but still, that is a stunning deal. In the 1950s, this home was repurposed as a private all-girls boarding school called Burnham by the Sea, and it was run by Mr. and Mrs. George Waldo Emerson. Then, from 1966 to 1971, the Gothic horror soap opera Dark Shadows used Seaview Terrace as the exterior for the fictional Collinwood Mansion. And if you've seen my Lyndhurst Mansion, that's located in Tarrytown, New York, the show also used that home for a filming location as well. Then, in 1974, this is when the Carey family acquired the estate. Millicent and Martin T. Carey, preservation-minded New Yorkers, purchased the mansion and renamed it Carey Mansion. Because the upkeep was so expensive, they leased parts of it to Salve Regina. The main house and the gatehouse were used as student housing, and the former stables became a dorm called Seaview. In the 1980s, the estate even served as headquarters for the American Syndicate of America's Cup. But then in 2009, Salve Regina terminates their lease. Ironically, the listing doesn't mention the 1975 filming of The Story of Joanna. That's the one that I did some research on. Basically, I'm going to read a blurb about the backstory. The scene is a millionaire begins a sadomasochist relationship with a naive young woman. The Story of Joanna is a visual masterpiece dealing with human degradation and sadomasochism. The sets are artistically atmospheric. So, shooting started on Wednesday, March 26, 1975, but by Monday the 31st, media coverage began running stories, and the owner was called out that why would you allow this to happen and be filmed, horrible, scary movie be filmed in Newport? And so push comes to shove, even though it's reported Carey, he knew about the filming of this. Apparently, staff who worked on site at the mansion said that Carey and his wife were there 5 days before filming began, where the director of The Story of Joanna gave him the script, which was very detailed and included things like, we're going to be filming on a glass table so we could look up and see the action. But when push came to shove, Carey was a little pap and lied and was like, oh my God, this was a misrepresentation to me. I just thought there was going to be some performances. Oh my gosh, claps my pearls. So he kicks them out, even though they were supposed to be filming until April 6th. But then the crew was told, you need to be out of here by April 1st. Funny enough, the crew leaves this mansion and then goes to the Woolsworth Mansion in Long Island that the same owner, Carey, also owned. So I think he was just in on all of it and was trying to make a quick buck. And then didn't want to just tell people, yeah, I have no problem with some adult movies being filmed here. I did watch some scenes. I will say, it was well done. I thought it was wild. And in the end, that naive young maid, not to have a spoiler for you, but she gets hers, and not in the way that you're thinking. Well, she does, but she gets the upper hand in the end. But overall, Seaview Terrace, is it the most beautiful mansion in Newport, in my opinion? No, it's not. It's kind of fugly, but I appreciate the history of it. From the outside, though, it looks like a great home. I'm just not a huge fan of the interior, but what are your thoughts? Would you buy it if you could afford it? Would you want to be there on Bellevue Avenue? All right, but in the meantime, thanks again for watching. By the time this is out, Thanksgiving will have passed, so I hope you all had a fabulous Thanksgiving if you celebrate it, and I will see you for the next video. And of course, if you have any suggestions on other homes to cover, whether it's to visit or to see, please do me a favor and drop that comment below and like and subscribe, so this way I know if you like it.
Say it!
I'm...
Meow!